What's up, everyone? It's Jake with Psychedelic Insights, and today we will be doing a deep dive on Gilgamesh Pharmaceuticals. Gilgamesh, as of now, is a private company worth over $100 million, according to an article by Lucid News, by Mark Gunther. He wrote the article. It's fantastic. I highly recommend that anyone who wants to learn more about the company watch this video and check out that article. It's truly fantastic. That being said, the company is worth in the range of 100 to 200 million, in between there somewhere. And they have raised I believe 2 years ago, they raised a $27 million Series A and a $39 million Series B, I think around 6 months ago. And they are backed by Y Combinator. So that is definitely something to note. What really impresses me about Gilgamesh is, first of all, their team is stellar. I really like how Jonathan Sporn, as a CEO, is a psychiatrist. I think in terms of being at the head of a psychedelic medicine company, to be a psychiatrist and understand the neurochemistry of these drugs, along with also understanding therapy, which will most likely be used with some of the drugs that they're developing. Again, though, we are still learning about how important therapy is to psychedelic medicine, but just his knowledge of and experience with drug development, and again his knowledge with neurochemistry, I think that combination is really important when talking about the CEO of this company, being the CEO of this company. So let's just get a little bit deeper into the team and a little bit of background. So Jonathan Sporn got 25 plus years of experience in drug development at Pfizer, J&J, assistant professor of psychiatry, Columbia University, and he was the founder of Perception Neuroscience, which was acquired by Atai Life Sciences. You see here Pfizer, NIH, J&J, just really impressive background. Something to note is PCN 101, which is the drug that Perception Neuroscience was developing with Atai Life Sciences. It didn't do so well in a phase 2A trial, and Gilgamesh is working on an orally bioavailable version of arketamine, which is what PCN 101 is. So later on in the video, we'll get into what this means for Gilgamesh's program around arketamine. So next, we will go look at Andrew Krugel. I really like this guy. I've seen him in an interview with who was it called? It was a piece done by Bloomberg on Ibogaine, and just hearing him speak, you could tell this guy is brilliant. As with all these companies, if you're, let's say, co-founder and head of chemistry, you're gonna be brilliant. There's no way around that. So we have here medicinal chemist, 10 plus years of experience synthesizing and patenting psychedelic and ibogaine analogs, discovered MOA, which stands for mechanism of action of the antidepressant tianeptine, founder and CEO of Cures, which was also acquired by Atai Life Sciences. And also, unfortunately, that drug hasn't worked out too well for Atai as of now. But something to note, most of these drugs that these companies are developing won't work out. As I'm sure many of you know, only maybe 6 to 10% of CNS drugs end up making it through the clinical trials and become marketed. So you got Gerard Marek, CMO. Again, I'll just quickly go over these guys, but you'll notice Pfizer, Merck, Biogen with their COO, Pfizer, Springworks, Regeneron. Just these are big pharma pedigree people, and I think this is exactly who you want leading your team. So let's take a deeper look at their pipeline, which I've really tried to learn more about the past year. So they have GM 1020 oral NMDAR antagonist. So this is their orally bioavailable arketamine. It's an, as with all their drugs, it's a new chemical entity. So you have composition of matter patents on these, or at least they're pending. Um, so potentially they could be a big pharma uh, target, a target of big pharma to be acquired. And I'll just say, first of all, it's interesting they describe it as an NMDAR antagonist because R-ketamine doesn't have as much of an effect on the NMDA receptor as S-ketamine. Um, I think it's something like 4 times less powerful in blocking that receptor, but it does still have activity around that receptor. But there's many other things that R-ketamine does that, quite frankly, for someone without a scientific background, I don't know all about it, but it's good to know as much as you can. And along with it being an NMDAR antagonist, there's already, some people have already talked about, there's already an orally bioavailable NMDAR antagonist on the market right now from Axum Therapeutics. So similar mechanism of action to ketamine, but without the dissociative effects, similar to what Gilgamesh is going for here. And the drug in clinical trials in a phase 3, it's separated from placebo beautifully in phase 3 trials, and it works for many people within 3 to 4 days of taking the medication. So it's a rapid acting antidepressant without the dissociative effects. It will probably be a blockbuster drug. I know a lot of people in the community may feel a little ambivalent about people trying to take out the psychoactive effects from psychedelics or ketamine, for example. But listen, if it's going to work and people don't have to sit in a clinic for hours and hours and do multiple therapy sessions, then more power to people. And not everyone wants to go on a psychedelic journey. It's a very serious experience and it shouldn't be taken lightly. With that being said, I think both hallucinogenic and non-hallucinogenic have their benefits. And I think even if the non-hallucinogenic 5-HT2A agonists, for example, end up working very well, I don't think that means we don't see people in the future receive psychedelic assisted psychotherapy. I think both can coexist. But interestingly, Andrew Krugel in an article by Nature, I believe, he said that they could potentially completely supplant hallucinogenic drugs. So that's interesting to note. But Gilgamesh, what I like about them in terms of developing new chemical entities is they're looking at both theories here, the hallucinogenic and non-hallucinogenic. They don't have their eggs all in one basket. Similar to Mindset Pharma, honestly, guys. And just so you know, I do hold shares in Mindset Pharma. I do like how they also take a similar approach of looking at non-hallucinogenic and hallucinogenic. Another thing I'll say about Gilgamesh is, so Atai is working with next gen. People need to understand that with entheogenics. They're doing a lot of fantastic work. But in terms of compounds that are furthest in development, I think Gilgamesh compared to Atai is next gen Atai. I mean, you have with Atai with their R-ketamine, it's injectable. Then you have with Gilgamesh, it's a pill. So that's in terms of scalability, that's clearly a big advantage for Gilgamesh. I wonder if Gilgamesh is going after MDD or TRD. That should be interesting to note. And then another example of next gen Atai. Atai is working on DMT, just normal NN-DMT with an interesting delivery mechanism with an oral film strip through Intelgenics, which I'm sure they will get some solid IP around for formulation. But Gilgamesh is a complete novel drug. It's a new chemical entity, and it's really cool that I've done a lot of reading about it. It seems that what they're going for is for the effects of this next gen DMT to have effects similar to DMT, but also MDMA. So, and they believe that it will last around an hour to 2 hours is what I've read. Um, and the reason I think it's really cool that if they're able to get the effects of DMT and MDMA is this is complete speculation, but I think with psychedelics, sometimes people can have a challenging experience, especially with letting go and accepting some of the maybe not so pleasant thoughts that they're having, but that they will be able to benefit from confronting these thoughts and emotions. I think MDMA, the effects of having something like an empathogen where it opens you up to looking at those thoughts in a non-judgmental way, I think could be really something special with this drug. And I cannot wait to see what they show, even just from phase one of subjective effects. So you got the NMDA antagonist in phase one and this next gen DMT in phase one. So let's move on to their 5-HT2A receptor non-hallucinogenic agonists. Oh, and by the way, you'll see, I don't have to read everything. I don't want to bore you guys. You could see here the indications they're going for. If you need to, just pause. I think there's more important things to do than read that off. But so you'll see here. But so you got the other side of things here. They have hallucinogenic and then non-hallucinogenic 5-HT2A agonists. And this one, I've heard Jonathan, by the way, I've heard every single interview Jonathan Sporn has given, has partaken in. First of all, he's really interesting to listen to talk, but also the passion he has for the work he's doing, as with most of these CEOs and CSOs, CMOs. It's really cool to see. And the way he described it was as sort of a microdosing program geared towards being subhallucinogenic and still having antidepressant effects and maybe even procognitive effects. I've seen that in past articles. They may be looking at ADHD for this. Should be interesting to see how MindMed's LSD microdosing trial turns out. But something to note about this program is Jonathan Sporn has spoken a lot about how with this drug, no matter how much you take, it will still be subhallucinogenic. So he made a joke around, is it the best idea to send your grandma home with a bottle of LSD? Chances are she may take the whole thing. Yeah, would the FDA be okay with giving out microdoses to people? Maybe there would be a lock on the pill bottle somehow. I don't know how they would do it. That only lets it dispense one dose at a time every 3 days, let's say. But yeah, so it's their microdosing program. Again, NCE, again for chronic use. It's interesting to think about. I've read up on Delix Therapeutics a bit. They have a lot of articles in scientific journals and stuff talking about their psychoplastogens, non-hallucinogenic. And I've read in an article that they're actually looking to make a pill that helps people, and you only have to take it once a month, possibly. So it makes me think that the approach Delix is taking is a little bit different than these other companies with non-hallucinogenic 5-HT2A agonists. Because Jonathan Sporn has said this is microdosing a couple times a week. So just interesting to note there. And this is in preclinical. And another one of their drugs in preclinical is GM300 GM-300X safer ibogaine analogs. So this was the program that basically Andrew Krugel was talking about with that Bloomberg piece, trying to take out that the effects of the drug that are, I think it causes QT prolongation, ibogaine. So they're trying to get rid of that. And their ibogaine derivatives that they're working on is in conjunction with I think his name's Samuel Dalibur, his lab at Columbia University, those analogs are licensed out to Gilgamesh. They've been working on them for 10 years. But according to Jonathan Sporn, they're not looking at a non-hallucinogenic version, like Delix is. In terms of Ibogaine, guys, the only companies I see that are really taking it through clinical trials with, who have the goal of taking it through clinical trials right now is a tie with, I guess, in a sense, generic Ibogaine, and Jonathan Sporn has kind of taken a couple of shots at these companies. He said, "There's no way in hell we're developing a generic drug." He always says that, and it's really interesting to see. But yeah, you have Ty at the head of the pack with their Ibogaine program. They're probably a year or two ahead of these other companies, but at this point, I don't even know because those results were supposed to come out early 2022, according to a 2021 earnings report. So I don't know how ahead they are now, but you have Gilgamesh and Delix with Ibogaine analogs. MindMed's out of the race, it seems. It seems like whatever happened with their 18MC was a complete mess, and they did not. I don't think they took the proper steps in preclinical trials or something. I don't know. It's a mess. But back to this. So they're looking at Ibogaine analogs, safer Ibogaine analogs, and it's interesting that they're keeping in the hallucinogenic effects. Perhaps they believe with Ibogaine that that's part of what helps people overcome their addictions and maybe even get rid of the physical withdrawal symptoms. But something tells me that in terms of the physical withdrawal symptoms, just purely that's more of a biological chemistry type of deal. That's just what I think, at least. I could be totally wrong. Again, I don't have a science background, but their pipeline is just really interesting, and it's going to be really cool to see what comes out of these programs in the future. And I am keeping a very close eye on them. All right, guys, something I forgot to mention, and I apologize. I said I would go over Ty's PCN 101 results and what it means for Gilgamesh's GM 1020, which is an orally bioavailable version of arketamine, and PCN 101 is arketamine, just injectable subcutaneous route. Well, actually, they looked at the IV route of administration. But anyways, Ty only looked at one dose of arketamine in a population with treatment-resistant depression. With Gilgamesh, considering they're working on a pill, you think that maybe if they're taking it, someone's taking it every day, maybe it just like Axum Therapeutics, a Velity drug, that it will take maybe 3 to 4 days to work. I don't know. But the Atai study, it was a small phase 2A trial. They only looked at one dose of the drug. So I don't think it necessarily means Gilgamesh doesn't have a shot with this compound in their portfolio. But yeah, really looking forward to seeing how this one progresses. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed this deep dive on Gilgamesh Pharmaceuticals, and it was specifically more of a deep dive on their pipeline. Briefly touched on their team. Again, extremely impressive. And I think everyone should be keeping an eye on this company. And with that being said, I hope everyone has a wonderful day. And if you liked this video, subscribe to the channel. Again, leave a like. It helps us reach a wider audience. And subscribe to us at Psyched Insights on Twitter. Have a great day, everyone.